Book of Heaven, Volume 6. 9th to the 28th of August 1905. Page 90–95. August 9, 1905. Effects of peace and of disturbance. Continuing in my usual state, I was feeling a little disturbed, and blessed Jesus, on coming, told me, "My daughter, the soul who is at peace and whose whole being tends completely into me, drips with drops of light which fall upon my garment and form my ornament. On the other hand, the soul who is disturbed drips with darkness, which forms the diabolical ornament. Not only this, but disturbance impedes the course of grace and renders it unable to operate good." Then he added, "If the soul becomes disturbed over everything, it is a sign that she is full of herself. If she becomes disturbed with something that happens to her, but does not with something else, it is a sign that she has something of God, but there are many voids to be filled. If, then, nothing disturbs her, it is a sign that she is all filled with God. Oh! How much harm disturbance does to the soul, to the point of rejecting God and of filling her completely with herself." August 17, 1905. All the glory of a soul is to be told that, of everything she has, nothing is hers, but all is of God. Continuing in my usual state, I saw the Queen Mama who was saying to our Lord, "Come, come into her garden to delight," and it seemed that she was pointing to me. On hearing this, I felt full of blushes, and I said to myself, "I have nothing good at all, how can he delight?" As I was thinking of this, blessed Jesus told me, "My daughter, why do you blush? All the glory of a soul is to be told that, of everything she has, nothing is hers, but all is of God, and I, in exchange, say to her that everything that is mine is hers." And while he was saying this, it seemed that my little garden, which he himself had made, would unite with his, most extensive, which he kept in his heart, and they would become one, and we would delight together. Then I found myself inside myself. August 20, 1905. Grace assumes as many images around the soul for as many as are the divine perfections and virtues. This morning, on coming, blessed Jesus told me, "My daughter, if in all of her actions the soul does everything for God, and to please God alone, grace enters into the soul from all sides, just as the light of the sun enters from all sides into a house when balconies, doors and windows are open, and one enjoys all the fullness of the light. In the same way, the soul enjoys all the fullness of the divine light, and through the correspondence of the soul, this light keeps increasing always, until she becomes all light. But if she does otherwise, the light enters through the cracks, and in the soul everything is darkness. My daughter, to one who gives me everything, I give everything. And since the soul is not capable of receiving my being altogether, grace assumes as many images around the soul for as many as are my perfections and virtues. So, it assumes the image of beauty, and it communicates the light of beauty to the soul, the image of wisdom, and it communicates the light of wisdom, the image of goodness, and it communicates goodness, the image of sanctity, of justice, of fortitude, of power, of purity, and it communicates the light of sanctity, of justice, fortitude, power and purity, and so with all the rest. So, the soul is studded, not with one sun, but with as many suns for as many as are my perfections. And these images are present around each soul. Only, for those who are open and correspond to them, they are all in activity, working. For those souls who are not, they are as though asleep, and little or nothing can they use of their activity. August 22, 1905. One who shares with Jesus the weight of his sufferings, that is, the work of his redemption, comes to participate in the gain of the work of redemption. As I was in my usual state, my adorable Jesus came for just a little, and he transported me outside of myself. He shared his sufferings with me, and then he told me, "My daughter, when two people share together the weight of a work, together they share the compensation that they receive from that work, and both of them can do good to whomever they want with that compensation. So, since you share with me the weight of my sufferings, that is, the work of my redemption, you come to share in the gain of the work of redemption. And since the compensation for our pains is divided between you and me, I can do good to whomever I want, in general and also in a special way. and you too are free to do good to whomever you want with the compensation that is due to you. This is the gain for one who shares my pains with me, which is conceded only to the state of victim, and it is gain for those who are closest to the victim because, being close, they can participate more easily in the goods that he possesses. Therefore, my daughter, rejoice the more I share my pains with you, because greater will be the share of your compensation. August 23, 1905. If the soul does everything for God, she remains extinguished in the flame of divine love. Thinking of oneself is never virtue, but always vice. Continuing in my usual state, my blessed Jesus told me, "My daughter, if the soul does everything for me, she imitates those little moths which hang around and around a flame, and remain extinguished in that very flame. In the same way, according to whether she offers to me the fragrance of her actions, of her movements and desires, the soul hangs round me, now around my eyes, now my face, now my hands, now my heart, according to the different offerings she makes to me. And by her continuous hanging round me, she remains all extinguished in the flame of my love, without touching the flames of purgatory." Then he disappeared, and as he came back, he added, "Thinking of oneself is the same as going out of God and returning to live in oneself. Moreover, thinking of oneself is never virtue, but always vice, be it even under the aspect of good." August 25, 1905. True virtues must have their roots in the heart of Jesus, and be developed in the heart of the creature. This morning, on coming, blessed Jesus told me, "My daughter, the soul must reside in my heart, and her very virtues, she must make it in such a way that they have their roots in my heart and be developed in her heart. Otherwise, there might be the natural virtues, or those of sympathy, which are called virtues at times and circumstances, and are mutable, while the virtues whose roots are fixed in my heart and are developed in the soul, are stable and adapt themselves to all times and to all circumstances, and are the same for all. But the others are not, and it happens that they feel an unlimited charity for someone. That is, at one time they are all fire. They make true sacrifices. They would want to lay down their lives, but then someone else comes, perhaps more in need than the first one, and in one moment the scene changes. They become icy. They don't even want to make the sacrifice of listening or saying a word. They are listless and send him back embittered and irritated. Is this perhaps the charity whose root is fixed in my heart? Certainly not. On the contrary, it is a vicious charity, all human and of sympathy, which seems to flourish at one moment, and it withers and disappears at another. Someone else is obedient to someone, submitted, humble. He makes himself a rag, in such a way that the other can do with him what he wants. But with another he is disobedient, recalcitrant, proud. Is this the obedience that comes from my heart, as I obeyed everyone, even my very executioners? Certainly not. Someone else is patient on certain occasions, be they even serious sufferings. He looks like a lamb that does not even open its mouth to lament. But with another suffering, maybe smaller, he loses his temper, he gets irritated, he swears. Is this perhaps the patience whose root is fixed in my heart? Certainly not. Someone else one day is all fervent. He prays always, to the point of transgressing the duties of his state. But another day he has had an encounter a little disappointing, he feels cold, and he abandons prayer completely, to the point of transgressing the duties of a Christian, the prayers of obligation. Is this perhaps my spirit of prayer, as I reached the point of sweating blood, of feeling the agony of death, and yet I never neglected prayer for one single moment? Certainly not. And so with all the other virtues. Only the virtues which are rooted in my heart and grafted in the soul are stable and lasting, and shine as full of light. The others, while they appear to be virtues, are vices. They appear to be light, but they are darkness. Having said this, he disappeared, and as I continued to desire him, he came back and added, "The soul who desires me always impregnates herself with me continuously, and I, feeling myself impregnated by the soul, impregnate myself with the soul, in such a way that, wherever I turn, I find her with her desires, and I touch her continuously." August 28, 1905. The heart of Jesus binds the human hearts to itself, and they take everything of his heart, even his very life, if they correspond to him. This morning, on coming, my adorable Jesus made me see his most lovable heart. Something like many shining threads of gold, of silver, and red-colored, were coming out from within it, and it seemed that they were forming a net which, thread after thread, bound all human hearts. I remained enchanted on seeing this, and he said to me, "My daughter, with these threads my heart binds to itself all the affections, the desires, the heartbeats, the love and even the very life of the human hearts, which are similar to my human heart in everything, except, mine is different in sanctity. And having bound them, as my desires move from heaven, the thread of desires excites their desires. If the affections move, the thread of affections moves their affections. If I love, the thread of love excites their love, and the thread of my life gives them life. Oh, what harmony between heaven and earth, between my heart and the human hearts! But only those who correspond to me can perceive this, while those who reject me with the effectiveness of their wills perceive nothing, and render vain the operations of my human heart.